This is part one of a two-part series of how to get a glassy smooth finish on oak cabinets. Part two will be the finish process, how we go about finishing the cabinets after applying Aqua Coat, so stay tuned for this video. This is Chris, the Idaho Painter, and this is Paint Live TV, and today I'm going to talk about how to get a glassy smooth finish on wood oak grain cabinets. One of the products I use to achieve that glassy smooth finish is Aqua Coat, and this is a product I've been using for quite a few years. It used to be clear, so you would apply it on your surface and you really couldn't see where you went and where you needed to sand very well. Now, this has got a couple coats on it. Now you can see it's white and it has this white pigment in it, so it's very easy to see where you've applied it and what you need to sand. It does bond a lot better than it used to, and it has more solids in it, so you don't have to apply as many coats as you used to in the past. It comes in pints, it comes in quarts, and it also comes in gallons. Right here, here's a gallon of it. Average size kitchen cabinets is probably gonna use about a quart, so this is what you would use for average size set of kitchen cabinets. You can apply it on painted surfaces, so if you make the mistake of applying or painting your cabinets before applying Aqua Coat and they look really grainy, you can put your Aqua Coat right over the top of a painted surface. The painted surface just needs to be cured. So these are lacquered cabinets right here. We're gonna sand them first, then clean them, and then apply our Aqua Coat, and I'm gonna talk about the tools that we use to apply it right now. So onto the tools that I use for applying the Aqua Coat. I like an assortment of squeegees, and I've got a set right here. These I purchased from a local hardware store. They're nice, flexible. I do like plastic or rubber squeegees versus metal, because metal is more likely to scratch or gouge your surface. I got them with handles, got them without handles, and then I also have some odd shaped ones, and these are kind of to use to remove decals or window tinting on windows. I got them from a local window tinter. Very simple. In the past, I used to use just an old credit card to apply it with. It works very well because they're flexible, they're small, and they bend really easily. I like to have a size that I can scoop out my Aqua Coat with a squeegee that will reach in and scoop it out. So I like one that fits inside like a quart container. If I'm using a quart, this one will fit right in there. You'll want to do some sanding. You're gonna need some glasses right here, safety glasses. I use a rag, like a microfiber towel, to apply it in hard to get areas. I've got a sander right here. I really like using the Surf Prep sander because it has these type of sponges that attach hook and loop right to the sander, and it contours to routed edges or recessed panel doors very easily. It makes the sanding really fast and efficient. You're gonna use 320 sandpaper to sand in between coats of Aqua Coat, because you're typically gonna apply at least 2 coats, sometimes 3. 1 coat typically is not enough. I start off with either a 180 or a 150 grit to sand my doors to begin with, to start with. So I'll sand them first, clean them off really well, and then apply the second coat. When I start applying the Aqua Coat, I do like to wear rubber gloves. So I got Raven gloves here, just something that's throwaway, disposable, easy to use, and it's not gonna cost a lot. They're the tools that I use, and now we're gonna move on to applying the product, and we're gonna show you how we go about doing that. The first step in applying your Aqua Coat is to sand your finish. So we want to get that thing a nice profile so it bonds really well. I've got 2 right here that need to be sanded for their final coats. This will be a 3rd coat, this will be 2 coats. But here's my door right here that's just got a lacquered finish on it. I have a 180 grit sandpaper right here, and I'm gonna just sand this thing, get it nice and ready. I don't have to overly sand, just a really light, fast sand. It's got a light sand on that. I'm gonna wipe this thing down and get it ready to apply my Aqua Coat now. So I'm gonna just begin applying some on the inside. The tools and accessories you typically see in all of our videos, you can typically find those tools down in the video description in our videos down below. This stuff goes a long ways. You don't need to take a whole lot off or out of the container. I'm gonna begin just applying it on my surface. And I'm gonna stay away, this is a raised panel door, so I'm gonna stay away from the edges. I'm not gonna be caulking the raised panels on this. Sometimes we'll caulk the doors, caulk the panels, and where we live, you can get away with doing that because the climate is very dry. And so you can get away with caulking your panels. So I'm just gonna work it around close to the edges. And then that's gonna be my first coat right there. That's on the center panel, and you can see there where it's filled the grain. So that's one coat. I can look at it right here. The outside, it's filled really good, but we'll go along the outside. Just set this down here. So it looked pretty good, but now that I'm scraping some on, I can see it's filling quite a bit of grain in there. So just keep applying that. Doesn't take a whole lot. It doesn't have a strong odor. It is water-based, cleans up very nice and easy. So I can get the edges, that looks pretty good. So you can see now this door is getting pretty close to being finished. I can rub my routed edges with Aqua Coat on a rag. So I got a microfiber cloth. If I'm really particular and I want to fill grain on the edges, I can just rub it on those edges. And then any hard to get areas, if I'm trying to get into a corner, I can use a rag or I can just use my finger. So these little in-grain cuts right here, they're probably, right there, I'll show you that. And then I've got some routed edges right on here that it's built up, so I'm wiping that down. Just like that. The product sands really, really easy, and we're gonna show you the sanding process. So this one is just about ready to go. So wipe this down. All my edges are just about hit. And got one more edge right here. I'm gonna set this thing aside, and this takes about 45 minutes to dry, and then we can sand it, and then we'll move on to our second coat. So I got two right here, 2 coats on this one coat on this one. I'm gonna sand both of them, and then we'll apply our final coat. So I'm gonna apply a 3rd coat on this because this is a shelf that I want really, really glassy smooth. I'm gonna apply just 2 coats on the cabinets. On to the sanding of our Aqua Coat that's already dry. I've got this shelf right here. I'm gonna apply a different pad on here. This is a very super fine pad. It's around a 320 grit. You want to sand with a 320 grit in between coats. Once again, this sander is really, really convenient for getting down in those raised panel, the profiles of the raised panel. You can see how it just conforms to whatever surface it's on. It's really, really nice, convenient, and fast. So now I've got my shelf sanded. I've got my door sanded. You can see the door, what it looks like here. You can see all the grain is nice and filled. Definitely could take one more coat, put one more coat on this. This is got 2 coats on it. So I'm gonna apply a 3rd coat on this shelf, one more coat on there, and then I'll sand that and be ready for my top coat. On with our final coat of Aqua Coat. I'm just gonna dust off my surface now. If you don't dust it off, you can get contaminants mixed in with your Aqua Coat, and it could not be nice and smooth application. Kind of gets in there and it gets a little bit grainy. So I'm going to wipe that down. It's a good idea to have 2 rags with you, and I'll apply my final coat. Getting into some of like really hard areas, say if I would have this panel right here caulked, because sometimes we do caulk our panels. If I needed to get in corners, sometimes I'll just use something just like my finger just to rub it down in there. But you don't want to leave a whole lot behind. It does sand fairly easily, but the more you leave behind, the more you're going to have to sand. You're really just after filling nicks, dings, or your grain. So I'm going to apply my final coat. Got my whole assortment of trowels here. Here's my Aqua Coat. We'll do the large one here first. So here we go. I'm going to apply it. So I can take it out. I can apply it on with a small trowel and then spread it with a large trowel to make the process a little bit faster. This is looking really good, and it feels now absolutely glassy smooth. Now this is going to look absolutely beautiful when done. Sometimes I like just going across the grain instead of with the grain. It seems like it has a tendency to feel a little bit better. So we got like our routed edges here. Can just rub it with my rag. It's looking really nice. So that one looks really good. Wipe off the excess on my edges here. I'm going to do this door, show you one last door. Final coat on this door. Once again, I'll work from inside out. So I'm going to work on my top panel here. Stuff doesn't have a strong odor at all, so you don't need to wear a respirator. You can barely smell it. Down inside the raised portion, it looks like it's fairly filled, but I can use that to get in there. I can use a little trowel like this to get down in there. Just go look around, search around. It's kind of interesting where you can find little trowels like this. This one right here came from the guys that did the window tinting on my vehicle. They were doing it, and I said, hey, can I have one of those? And they gave one to me. Same with this one here. Once again, you can apply it down in there with a rag too. But you just don't use too much, because you don't want to get it where you don't want it. Like I don't want it down in the edges of my raised panel where it bridges that gap. So this is looking pretty good. I'll work on my outside edges now. This door right here, the end result when we eventually paint this, it would have looked really, really grainy. Now it's going to have a real nice factory finish. It's getting pretty close to being done. I know some people are going to say, well, why don't you just use your coating and spray multiple coats on and build it up heavy enough that fills it? From our previous experience in the past, you got to spray on a lot of material, and in order to eventually get that glassy smooth finish, which you can't 100% get it without applying like an Aqua Coat or a grain filler. It's really difficult. You can if you keep spraying a ton of product on there, but it's just the end result's gonna cost you more money. Your product spraying it on there is gonna cost more than the Aqua Coat that you're applying. So this door is ready, set aside. It'll be 45 minutes, and then it'll be ready to sand. Same with the tabletop here. Set this aside. Sand it. Once I sand it, my final sand will be a 320, and then it's ready to coat. So once I'm done the application process and the final sand process, I'm going to begin the painting process. It's very simple, easy to do. These things are going to be glassy smooth when I'm done. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you've got any questions or comments, leave them in the questions or comments section below. We love hearing what you have to say. If you've ever used Aqua Coat before, let us know what you're experiencing with. Share it down below. If you got any tips or tricks, we love to hear from you. Hit that little notification bell. It's free and easy to do. That little hourglass thing down there, all it does is it allows you to be notified every time Paint Life TV comes out with a new video. And if you like our videos, subscribe to our channel. It doesn't cost you a dime. Give us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed the video. We would appreciate it very much. And like we always say, hopefully we'll see you on our next video. Out.